and we'll just give about a minute for everyone to log on. Hi everyone who's logging on. We'll start in a second. Ashley, I haven't done an intro for you in a month. It feels so, I feel so removed.
A month. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna go, oh my goodness, what am I gonna say? Here comes the fall, and now we're getting into things we've done, accomplished.
Yeah. Give it another couple seconds for people to log on. All right, well, let's get started and people continue to trickle in. Hello and welcome. Thank you for logging on to this evening's program. My name is Matt Schumann. I am on the programming team here at Cary Library. Before we begin, please let me know if you are having any technical issues. You can send any information about that to me in the chat and I can try to help you. You can also send questions via the Q&A button and we will address those. This program is made possible by the generous donors to the Cary Library Foundation. I'd like to now introduce Ashley Rooney, a prolific author and the past president of the Lexington Field Garden Club. Ashley has brought numerous gardening experts to the virtual library all year, and we are infinitely grateful for her presence in the community. So please welcome Ashley.
It's funny to think we have a virtual library these days. Hi, everybody. I'm delighted that you're here tonight. And I'm excited about our program. A couple of years ago, I had this dream. And Donna Moultrup, who will talk tonight, she got it into reality. And it is the sensory garden over at the community center that many of you may have watched growing and building and as we went. And Donna is the public health nurse. She works in the Lexington town. She's doing contact tracing for us now. And the fact that she manages to do this garden too is absolutely amazing. So I feel very lucky that she's been the one to carry out my dream. And here we go. I'm going to be running the screen for her. So we hope. Do I have it? Ooh, share. There we are.
There it goes.
Got it, Donna?
Yep. I can see it.
Okay.
Okay.
Take it away, honey.
All right. Thanks so much. And thanks for joining us. This has been quite a project. It's taken really a couple years to get it all together, but we've had a good time doing it. It was Ashley's dream, that's for sure. But I don't know, eventually we're going to have a sign. I don't know what it's exactly going to say, but John and Dorothy Furnstahl donated money to the Friends of the Council on Aging. And that's where this came from. And Ashley, you want to show the next slide?
Wait a minute. Next slide. There we go. Here we go. Sorry.
So this money went to the Friends of the Council on Aging, and they have a Bright Idea grant program. And that is that people make submissions and they have ideas about programs that would be helpful to the elderly. And so Ashley accomplished that. And we got money for this grant. What's that?
And I found you.
Oh, I won't go into the long. Let's just say if Ashley approaches you to do something, you better either run or accept it, because she really got me into this quick and I had no idea what was going to be happening. But at any rate, her original idea was to have 4 raised beds like you see in this picture. And so she was able to get the DPW to help build them. And we actually gave them a picture out of a gardening catalog. And they produced these wonderful, wonderful raised beds. In fact, this picture is perfect. You can see that they've braced it underneath. There's 6 legs total on this box. It takes a forklift to pick these boxes up. 2 of us could actually pick them up if they were empty, but the forklift had to pick them up once they had the dirt in them. But it's all pressure treated wood on the outside, but no part of that reaches the dirt. The dirt and everything is inside a cedar part of the box. And then there's fabric, landscaping cloth inside to keep the dirt from leaking out. And then we put compost from the DPW into the boxes. And they did their work. They built the boxes in 2018, the winter of 2018 and 2019. And we were fortunate that year, we didn't have a lot of snow. And so they had the time to build these boxes. And we knew that in the spring, when the boxes were ready, they would not have time to do the design and the work in the yard. And this is a good picture again for that, because you can see the grass is still under these. What I did was dig 24 spaces of 1 foot by 1 foot, just so that the legs would have a place to sit on the stone dust. So they had like footings underneath them, because we didn't know when we would be able to finish the site. Okay, so go ahead, Ashley, next slide. There they are again. You can see with the landscaping cloth going in, you can see the bracing better and the wood. And this is the, apparently the wood shop, right? This is the wood shop at the DPW. Okay, next one. Yeah, there they are.
There they are.
And it was great. It was great. I think it was, if you know anyone at the DPW, I don't know their last names, but Nick and Sue were the two that really worked on these boxes for us.
Yeah.
So this is the
spring 2019.
Pardon me? Yeah,
No,
spring 2019. Except that I want you to notice, all those of you who are real gardeners out there, you know well that all this blooming didn't happen in the spring. These are pictures, I think, of summer 2019.
Yeah.
So
but it looks good. I mean,
yeah, no, this is summer, because there's the Calabrochia and the what else is blooming here? Oh, the bachelor buttons is blooming. Oh, and you can't really see to the left of that little purple flower there. That's guara, which I learned was a plant really from Texas, because it did not survive the winter. And so then I read about it and went, yeah, I don't think that's going to be a plant that we're going to be able to keep.
What's this big one, Donna?
That's the Japanese lantern.
That's what I thought it was.
Yes, and we didn't get any blooms on it that year, but you'll see some.
Oh,
And this is the fourth box, and we have some astilbe in here. Some coreopsis is right in the front. The tall one back here is bee balm, and then the sedum, and then the fennel. The fennel is huge back there, and then rosemary is right there in the corner. That box, wait till you see it this year. This year they're all pushing at each other like, get out of here, there's not enough room for everybody. All right, next one, Ashley. All right, so at the end in 2019, the boxes were very pretty with all the flowers, but it made this wall look terrible, because the wall just had grass. There was nothing there. And we said, we really need to do something with that wall. And it just so happened we had a little extra pile of compost. So we pushed it up against the wall and planted these flowers. And again, this is summer of 2019. And I put next to it summer 2020, because you can see they're monstrous. I mean, they just have grown so well. Wow, they don't get a lot of rain there, but they have grown well. They're really doing well. I want you to look back here where you see that orange. That is a butterfly weed. And I'm going to show you some other pictures of butterfly weed later, and you'll remember that. All right, and here's the rain barrel. Now this is 2020, because you'll see that we've done some landscaping. We've put in a walk, and we were able this year to put in this stone base here for the rain barrel and raise it up so that we could get full advantage of all of the water in the rain barrel. Last year, you can see it right above that, right there where Ashley's got the arrow, is the spout that was there last year. And so we weren't able to get the lower water.
Oh, let me just add one thing. This rain barrel came from the DPW. They often have them to sell in the summer. And what is really wonderful, especially with the summer like we just had, is to at least harvest the rain, which is better than water out of the hose. for your plants because it doesn't come with all the salts and stuff that is in the hose water. So this is really good if you can get a rain barrel. We have two at home, and it made a big difference in the watering this year. What is this big plant?
That's the Japanese lantern, or I have to check. I have it written. It's either Japanese or Chinese lantern, but yeah, that's it. And it's relatively early in the season. And I've got some pictures later of it later in the season.
Okay.
And it finally bloomed.
Oh, great.
All right. So if you go, you walk by the curved wall and then you see the rain barrel. To the right of the rain barrel is another small little space that, you know, didn't look all that good because it needed flowers. And so this is a spring picture on the left with some peonies blooming. And then you can see the astilbe over here on the left. And then these are daylilies in the front. And so this is a later summer picture. The astilbe is already bloomed. Peonies have already bloomed. And now we've got all the daylilies blooming. And there is actually, if you go up there tomorrow, there is still one of those daylilies blooming up there. It's just amazing.
Well, of course, it's sheltered in that spot.
It is.
What you did by doing this is soften that great big ugly brick wall. I mean, it's a beautiful community center, but this big brick wall is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, these gardens have helped a lot. So if you keep going then to your right, you're going to see another back garden here by the wall, which actually did have peonies. People who had come there for many years to that building said, oh yeah, there used to be peonies back here. So I rescued a couple of peonies that were there and actually covered up by weeds. And so I rescued some of those, and then I brought some from my house. And so this was the spring this year, what it looked like. And then here it is blooming later in the summer.
With more daylilies.
More
Nice.
daylilies. Yeah, this whole garden has daylilies and peonies. And I put in a couple of catmint, nepeta, just to fill in some space. They're not in a good place now because they've already doubled in size, but go ahead. Next slide, please. All right, so the point of this sensory garden is that we have something in it to appeal to all of your senses. And so the first thing you do is go, oh, let's see, that's sight and hearing. And it's really hard to name all five the first thing. So what I've done is I've put a slide in for each sense, and then we'll go to the pictures, and there's some pictures. I don't have pictures of everything, and I'm not going to spend too much time. I put 2019 and 2020. Some of these things have lasted, like our rose bush comes back every year. Our lavender Munstead comes back every year. Rosemary, lavender Q Red did not survive last year, and I couldn't find one this year. So I ended up putting in, I left the lavender Munstead. I put in thyme. And so all of the herbs for the most part have to be renewed. The chives came back, they come back. The Thai basil, that was beautiful this year. I have a picture of that, I'll show you. That was really beautiful, and I hope to get that again next year, but it won't survive the winter.
No.
We had lilies of the valley. Originally, our idea was to have a path in the front of these boxes and then turn and go around the boxes. So we actually put the plants in there so that there would be a front and a back. But as it turns out, you'll see pictures later, we just have the path in the front. So now I'm sort of moving the tall plants to the back, the shorter plants to the front, and things like lilies of the valley that couldn't be shaded by the other plants, we just took them out because they don't survive. The sun is very hot in the back here. And I think also the sun hits the bricks and also maybe bounces off because it's very hot.
You get a kind of an oven effect there.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Okay, here we go. On the left is the My Girl Rose, and that has bloomed for both years and done really well. This picture on the left is the 2019 picture, because in 2020, something was eating that thing, and I don't use pesticides. So I use, insecticidal soap, and I don't know what was eating that thing, but whatever I was doing wasn't helping all that much, and it doesn't look all that good right now. as the fall comes in, but I'm assuming it will survive well. This is the lavender munstead on the right, and this is not blooming when I took this picture, but it has, you know, spiky lavender flowers. It's really quite pretty. Next one, Ash.
Can you smell it as you walk past it?
No, but if you touch it, you can. Okay, on the left, this is 2020, and this is his Thai basil up here in the right-hand corner there. I mean, it looked like a wedding bouquet. I loved it. And this is the English thyme here. This is Swiss chard back here.
We're imitating the French there.
but it doesn't have to do with smell. It's the English thyme and the Thai basil that appeals to the sense of smell. And on the right here is our fennel and our rosemary. If you touch that, of course, you can
rosemary
get that.
And there's your sedum.
Yeah, this is the pink sedum here. That's the yellow Coreopsis grandiflora. And way back here is the red bee balm. The red bee balm is just pushing everything out of that box. Okay, next. All right, so for hearing, now we kind of cheat with hearing because, I mean, I can tell you this Chinese lantern, it's Chinese. Okay, Chinese lantern, and I'll show it to you later. The lanterns were supposed to rustle in the wind. I don't know that that really happens. But at any rate, what we did was all of these here attract bees. So the black-eyed Susan, we have the Dicentra, Scabiosa, the My Girl, the Rose, the grandiflora, the bees love, the meadow sage, the dahlias, allium, that all of those attract the bees, and the chrysanthemum is blooming right now. And so the bees can have some of it because the rest of them, a lot of them are not blooming now. Okay, pictures.
Oh, pretty.
Okay, here we go. So on the left there is the My Girl Rose. And then on the right is the grandiflora, Coreopsis grandiflora, and the bees love that. And the beauty of that flower is that if you cut the old flowers off, which they call deadheading, or the garden club likes to call that grooming the plant. But if you cut the dead flowers off, this thing will continue to bloom. It has had flowers all summer long, and it still has some flowers left on it. And then on the right, this is your black-eyed Susan. And the bees love that one too. Now, I took this picture on the left. It is from my yard because I thought that the chrysanthemum blooming up at the community center was going to be the same color and the same size flower, but the one at the community center hadn't bloomed yet. So I was just up there tonight. If you go up there, it's a fabulous, beautiful specimen of a chrysanthemum. The flowers are slightly smaller and it's more of an orangey red rather than this pink, but it's very pretty. And this one on the right is Helenium. And this thing has bloomed all summer long and the bees love this thing.
Yeah.
This is a plant, if you ever, if you're writing this down and you go to the nursery to get one of the things I read about it and learned through experience at the community center is that you need to divide this every single year. It will get out of control. In 2019, we had one that looked like this. In 2020, we had two that looked like this that came from the original one. So make sure you divide that regularly.
At the plant sale next year, they can go.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Helenium is really good to attract the insects.
Yeah. Oh, the bees loved it. And the bees and I sort of got along. It was quite amazing because I'm up there during the day and the bees are everywhere. And I just say, I'm just watering. It's okay. I tried not to water with a hose. I tried to use the watering can, use the rain barrel. And also I would use the hose, but just let it stream, not use a nozzle. And that way I could just kind of put it down where I knew the roots were of the plant and not bother the bees. So plants for the sense of touch are a little bit difficult, but we have lamb's ear, silver carpet, and I have a picture of that. They're very soft. They look soft, and then you feel them, they're really soft. The Dicentra, which is the modern bleeding hearts, which is more like a bush than the old-fashioned bleeding hearts, And it has a very lacy kind of leaf, which you can feel it when you touch it, you know that. In 2019, we had a licorice plant called Silver. And again, it looked a lot like lamb's ear and it was very soft. It didn't do well in the box. And so again, I looked for it again this year. I was going to try again, but they didn't have it. So, and then the sweet fennel, because it's got this real soft and long leafed kind of thing. So it's, if you went there and you just closed your eyes, you would be able to feel these plants. So there's your lamb's ear on the left. And that has just, I don't know, that thing's got 4 times as many plants in there as when we planted it in 2019. So it's going to be totally divided this year. I just can't believe how some of these have grown. This is your Dicentra here, and you can see how it's kind of frilly. The leaves are frilly. The bees love these pink flowers on the Dicentra too.
I'm surprised that grows so well in that hot sun. Mine really.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And originally I was going to take it out, but it survived well this year. We have two of them. I'm going to take one out this year because we have, you know, we need more room.
Yeah.
So here's the fennel. This is an early, this is probably the end of June of the fennel, but you can see how it's just really soft. And this is a licorice on the right.
Now does the fennel smells?
I think maybe the seeds do. I mean, if I walk by it, if I work with it, or if I cut a branch off, I don't smell anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure whether it's, I mean, I think it's the seeds that they pound that you actually, when you buy it, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You can see,
when you eat fennel, or when you buy a fennel root, you have these little frothy things, and they can add something, a little bit of taste, anise taste to the salad, I noticed.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But that may not be a very smelly one.
Well, that could be too.
Yeah.
Okay. Plants for the sense of sight. Obviously, that's color for the most part. And again, our rose is in there. We had some celosia, especially in 2019. The celosia did beautifully. It's never grown that beautifully in my yard. I've had it before, but it just was spectacular in 2019 at the community center. There's a bachelor button with a really beautiful purple flower. When Ashley showed you the boxes initially, that yellow flower was a marigold lemon gem, and it was quite beautiful. I've not seen, that was the first time I had seen one that looked like that. Coreopsis grandiflora, the pink astilbes are very pretty. Bee balm, of course, and this particular one is called Monarda Fireball, and it just has this clump of red flower at the top that the bees love. And Calibrachoa, I guess that's how you say that, I'm not sure. That had purple, sort of pink purple flowers in 2019. And when I couldn't find that one and ended up getting a Supertunia, which was the same size flower. I swear, if you don't have them side by side, you wouldn't know one from the other.
Yeah.
And then our Indian feather guara, which was so pretty. It was passionate blush. I had never seen it before. It really grew very well at the community center. I did not find it this year. It didn't overwinter at all.
Oh.
So
Well, here's
the red celosia. And that was mid-season. I mean, by the end of that season, it was twice as tall, bright red leaves. It was quite something.
Yeah, the leaves are pretty on this.
Yeah, yeah. And this is our scabiosa, pink mist. Again, the bees love this. It's an interesting plant because I think I had to get used to it because the flowers come way out. You can see how far out from the plant they come. And sort of, you know, like it has its own personality. And, but I've started to really love it. And you can see these little guys here are all new flowers. And again, if you cut the old flowers, once they're spent, you get more blooming. I mean, it's blooming nicely right now up at the community center.
Hmm.
Here's that marigold lemon gem. See, it's not big fat marigolds that
Beautiful.
even the little ones, you know, are full flowers.
Yeah,
This looks almost more like a daisy,
yeah.
but it was quite nice. And this is the Indian guara here. It was very pretty, had all kinds of pink flowers on it. It really goes,
Are these flowers or are these just the stems that are, I'm seeing the red?
well, most of this red is stem. I
Mhm.
don't know, this picture is not as clear. I mean, the wrong part of it is easy to see.
Okay, I hopped ahead. I didn't mean to, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Okay. All right. Again, this is more of the sense of sight because these are different. These four are 2020. They replaced the lilies of the valley, marigold, the lemon gem. I had some sweet woodruff in there. Again, it was too hot for sweet woodruff. It's a shade plant.
Oh, damn.
So here's a meadow sage.
Wait a minute. There's the meadow sage, sorry.
So here's a meadow sage. This is 2020. Again, the bees love that.
Oh, you can see the bee right.
I was going to say, here's the bee and the dahlia. And dahlias are interesting. These are annual dahlias. I have overwintered them, so they will do that. But I don't think they're as spectacular. I'm not sure that each time you overwinter something they think is an annual dahlia, that you don't lose something. But these were brand new this year, and they've just been fantastic. They're still blooming too. And the bees are on them because, you know, there are less and less flowers for them.
That's the
Here's that supertunia. And the supertunia was interesting because petunias don't like heat. So in the real hot part of the summer, they will stop blooming. And this particular one actually started to die. But it was okay because behind it is the chrysanthemum that you saw that picture of, the pink one. And the chrysanthemum has now taken up half of the space that the petunia was in anyway.
Ah, okay.
I put this in so you could see the pink sedum here in the end box, because that's another one that has a lot of bees. And this starts with a light pink flower, and then it gets redder and redder as the fall goes, and then eventually it turns brown. But right now it's in its red stage.
And you can see all those plants along the wall here.
Yeah, this was 2019, because you can see right there what you see in plants there. That's the peonies being surrounded by these big weeds. And see, we hadn't planted that garden. I didn't plant that until the fall of 2019. So that's what it looked like before. And you can see that there's still grass around the boxes. So, but I wanted you to get a long look at the boxes and then the gardens. All right, sense of taste. One of the reasons that we didn't want pressure treated wood touching the soil was because we knew we wanted to put food things in there. And so we've had sweet peppers, lunchbox red. That is so cute. The peppers are about 2 inches long, and they're green, but then they turn red right away. And so you harvest them when they're red. And the staff at the community center has appreciated those peppers. Chives were new in there this year, and I put 2 of them in, and I put them next to the rose, which really wasn't a good idea, because chives, all you have to do is bump them and you can smell them. So I think I'm going to move them to a little different place.
They also spread very easily.
Oh yes, oh yes. There are 2 bunches in there now. I'm only going to leave one. The other one I'll probably cut in half and put it in 2 different pots for the garden sale. Swiss chard. If you've ever grown Swiss chard, I've grown it in my own garden, and it has never been as beautiful as the Swiss chard is up there. And I think it's because it's kind of hidden in between all the other plants. So anything that liked it didn't see it. Or the other things that eat it are the ground insects. And of course, raised beds. I mean, one of the beauty of raised beds is you don't have to deal with ground crawling insects or rabbits.
Or chipmunks, or woodchucks, or groundhog.
Oh, yeah, right. Deer, if you have deer, sorry, those raised beds are perfect for them. It's more like a feeding trough for their deer. Thankfully, they haven't touched anything though. So the Thai basil, someone up at the community center really used Thai basil a lot. So she was able to take some of those leaves and use them in her cooking. English thyme, the sweet fennel, of course, and then the rosemary. There's,
look at those peppers.
there's the Swiss chard on the left there. And you can see the chrysanthemums behind it. This
Mhm.
thing in between these leaves is the meadow sage. It kind of got overwhelmed by the Swiss chard. On the right are the lunchbox peppers. You can see how cute they are. They're interesting though. If you take a few and then you want to cut them up for a salad or something, you have to deal with them just like the big peppers. So
Yeah.
it takes just as much time to take the seed pods out.
This is really a pretty box with the greens and reds.
Yes, yeah. Well, the rainbow chard, I love it because you get white, red, and yellow, and you never know what you're going to get.
Yep. I remember when I was first in Paris the first time and I saw chard in their fancy parks, in their
Ah.
gardens. I had never seen it grown in a fancy garden before. And I thought, what a wonderful idea.
Well, I would have never thought of it either, except we were trying to do the sensory garden part of it. So put it in there and it's just grown. Some of the leaves were going right up through the chrysanthemum today.
Gosh.
On the
Oh.
left is the English thyme blooming.
Oh,
You can see that was a very tiny plant at the beginning of the summer, and look at the size of it.
I didn't know thyme bloomed. That's interesting.
Yeah, I
this-
don't know that it always does, and it didn't. It's not like this whole thing was covered with blooms either. It was just a few. So I'm not sure about that either.
And this is the Thai basil?
This is the Thai basil. Yeah, this is the early. You can see the flowers forming, and you can also see something was eating it too. I don't know what. It looked better when the flowers came out. You couldn't see some of the eaten leaves.
That's probably a caterpillar of some sort.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
some-
know. You look for them, they say pick them off. That's what you're supposed to do as an organic gardener, is pick off the insects. But
Yeah.
I never see them.
Yeah. It's hard to see them. They're often
Yeah,
small. And
absolutely.
there's my Chinese lantern.
Here's the Chinese lantern. So on the left is 2019, and it grew and it looked beautiful. It had 2 little white flowers on it. That's it. And no lanterns. And you can see it was getting really quite large. So I said, okay, I need to move you to a place where you have more room. So in 2020, I moved it over to the wall. In the meantime, it had dropped more than 1 flower or 2 flowers, or it just sent the runners. The entire box was full of Chinese lantern this spring. I had to dig out the entire box and start over.
I'm sorry.
So, well, hey, what can I say? So all summer 2020, this Chinese lantern looked just like the left picture. So then it grew out and it grew almost to the grass. And I said, for crying out loud, what are you doing? And I picked it up and there were all of these orange lanterns. And so I staked it up with string so you could see the orange lanterns. I still don't know whether they really, I told Ashley, if anything, it seems like late in the fall, like now, the seeds might drop inside the lantern. And so then if the wind came, you might hear those seeds. But the chance of me hearing those while I'm there is not really good.
That's true. They
But-
did say it in the book, the Chinese lantern you're supposed to hear. That's interesting. On the other
Well-
hand, you don't want all those seeds to fall and break open because you'll have Chinese lanterns all over the place.
Well, that's another thing. Behind it, now that you mentioned that, right behind this lantern plant, you can see all these spikes coming up. Those are the seed pods for the butterfly weed.
Oh,
And
that's-
I actually cut them off because if any of those fall on the ground, you have butterfly weed everywhere. So
Oh,
I,
that's a neat plant to have.
well, last year in 2019, I cut some of these pods, brought them home, seeded them, and I had 5 butterfly weed, orange butterfly weed that were babies of this plant, and they're now in my garden.
Yeah.
So this year when I cut these, I kept some. So if anyone in the garden club would like to have those seeds and plant them for plants, they did beautifully.
I'll take them for the plant sale.
Okay.
We don't
Okay.
have time. we got to figure it out. And here is
All
the
right.
butterfly weed. Or
This is the piece de resistance. These pictures were both from, is this, no, the one on the left is the butterfly weed from 2020. It didn't have quite as many flowers. If you remember way back, I said, look at that orange flower up by the wall, because last year it was just covered with flowers. This year it didn't have quite as many, but last year, look at these caterpillars. And I will tell you, I will admit, I had never seen these before. They looked really dangerous. And of course they were eating the whole butterfly weed. So I took this picture and sent it to Ashley. And I said, Ashley, what are these things? They're eating the whole plant. What should we do with them? And she wrote back quickly and said, oh my gosh, those are monarch butterfly caterpillars. Don't touch them. So we had like 12 or 13 caterpillars on the plant at any one time. And you can see they are just fabulous. They disappeared overnight. So I always hoped that someone who knew what they were took them all and knew how to let them become a chrysalis. And when they became butterflies, they let them go. That's my most optimistic view. In the meantime, we went online and they have so many predators, both mammals, small mammals and birds and that sort of thing, that you wonder how any monarch butterflies are out there at all. So I can't say, but that's my most optimistic view. And I think that is the last slide.
Oh, it's Matt's turn.
All right, so now we're going to have a tour through the garden from this year, and it was taken sort of at the end of the summer, and my husband and I did it, so it is an amateur video, but it will show you the garden as it is this year.
Did we say
So
when
the,
are you going to talk about the handicap part?
Oh yeah, okay. When we see the garden, I can talk about that.
Be 1 second. Let me just
Because the video is where you're going to see the walk, the new walk that was installed in 2020, and the DPW did that.
Well, can you just hold that? We have two questions.
oh,
Do
sure.
all the boxes have different plants?
For the most part, yes. There's a couple repeats, but
Yeah.
but I couldn't plant them. We didn't plant them like this box is for the sense of smell and this box is for the sense of taste, because we try and have like a center showpiece is like the large plant, and then the others sort of fill in around it. So as we go through here, you'll see what the garden looks like in 2020 and how it's arranged.
And Charlotte, I think Donna just answered your second question right there. So were they organized by sense or they mixed together?
No, they're all mixed.
Okay, take it away, hon. Okay, Matt.
I just as a well, it should work fine, but I apologize if there's any technical hiccups here. Hopefully, let's hope for the best.
That's all right. I already apologized for the amateur. Hi, I'm Donna Moultrup. Welcome to the Furnstahl Sensory Garden at the Lexington Community Center. This has been quite a work in progress. We've been working on it for 2 years. We're feeling pretty good about it at this point. We need to have a sign to welcome people to it, but otherwise we're in pretty good shape. Every year the flowers change a little bit because they grow bigger than we expect or smaller than we expect, that sort of thing. But we thought we'd walk you through just to get a good sense of what's here. The prominent part of it is the 4 boxes, 4 raised beds, and that's sort of what this is all about. And those were built by the Department of Public Works during the winter of, let's see, that would have been 2019. And these are really sturdy boxes. We used a picture and showed them the picture, and this is what they came up with. And a lot of the wood is pressure treated, but none of that touches the actual plants. So the base of the box will stay forever. The rest of it is made out of cedar, and there's a landscaping cloth liner to it, and then we use the town's compost in it. And I gave it a little bit of organic fertilizer this spring, because remember the raised boxes, especially ones up on their legs, they don't get worm castings and rotting material, you know, like other things do in the ground. They get sort of, you know, normal and natural fertilizer. So you really do have to pay attention to these raised beds. I should say at the start too, they need to be watered more regularly. Especially these, we have the boards on the side, and the wind, you know, just sort of blows through them. So this garden is tended 3 times a week, and it's the uneven 7 days a week that's a problem. I've been coming Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and the distance between Saturday and Tuesday can sometimes be a problem. The raised beds definitely need to be watered that often. Over here you can see the garden by the wall, and that really wasn't a part of it originally, but of course, like at your own home, when you start to do one section, it kind of makes the other section look shabby, and there was nothing planted by this wall, and it made it look really intense. So we had some extra compost, and so we threw it over there and decided to plant it, and it's turned out very nicely for us. You can see the rain barrel over here, and it does a surprisingly good job of giving us water, especially for the raised beds. I usually try and water the raised beds with watering cans, and so I have 2 of these, and the system is that you put one under it and turn it on, and then when you use this one to water, this one is filling. And so that way it doesn't take quite as long. If you have to wait for each watering can to fill, it takes a lot longer. But I can tell you when the rain barrel is full, you can't get all the way to the end without this one overflowing. So it's an interesting kind of work.
You're on your toes.
And so after we did this wall, then we had the back wall, and so this year we were able to last fall we were able to plant this section here and that section there, and so we're pleased with the results at this point. Everything is doing really well. This is September 7th, and so, you know, a lot of the things are still blooming, and we have the herbs and the peppers are in their prime right now, but some of the daylilies, as you can see, that garden near the wall there doesn't have any flowers at all at this point. All right, we're going to walk on the stone dust path that we have, and this was put in by the DPW this spring, or not this spring, no, it was last, I don't remember when we put this thing in. I know I put extra stuff in this spring, so they must have done it in the fall of 2019. That's when this was done. And this is designed to go next to the raised beds, and then it goes around to the patio. So we're going to give you a view of each of these boxes as we go. And the sensory part of this is taste. We have little red lunchbox peppers here. Eyes, of course, is all the color. And we have some verbena in here. These are some black-eyed Susans. This one started blooming early, and so it's pretty spent, while others are still doing well right now. We have lamb's ears, and these are very soft to the touch. And then we have some, this is also soft to the touch, the Decentra. It's a lacy kind of foliage. And then, of course, hearing are for the bees. And the bees love the black-eyed Susans, they love the Decentra, and they love this Scabiosa here also. And one of the things I do every time I come is to cut off the dead flowers, which encourages more flowers to come. In most flowers I've found, but there are specific ones that really need to be deadheaded. But this Scabiosa in particular operates like that. So here we have again another Decentra for touch. We have this lovely My Girl Rose, and this obviously attracts the bees, but it also has a lovely fragrance. It's a bush rose, but it still has a smell to it, and it's very nice. And this is the lavender here, which if you take it like this, you can smell the lavender. It's wonderful. This is some coreopsis here, and the bees love it. This is one that really responds to taking the dead flowers off, but you have to really keep at it because it really produces a lot of flowers. Behind here, I think you can see we have some chives. Now next year I'm going to move these chives. I didn't think it was a good idea to put these behind the rows. I did it this year because I had the space, and I thought, well, I'll just put chives there, and then I'm putting the chives there, and I'm going chives next to the rows. I just don't like that. So we'll move those somewhere else. Now behind you can see a little better the garden that we put next to the wall. And that's got mostly daylilies and some peonies. I had some extra peonies for my house, but there were also a few peonies that had been here at the community center for a long time, and they're much happier now that they've been moved out and given some space. All right, this one here had to be totally redone because we had a Japanese lantern plant in here, and it took over the entire box to begin with. So I had to dig it all out. And so this has been a pretty good box, although this chrysanthemum is taking over, and I think it's killing this supertunia here. This had all purple flowers, and I have some other pictures that I'll show you of that. But the chrysanthemum, which is about to bloom, has really taken over. It's pushing out the Swiss chard. We have some beautiful Swiss chard. I mean, if you have a vegetable garden at home and have Swiss chard down on the ground, you know it gets eaten. But up here, it grows beautifully in this raised bed. We have some dahlias just for color. And then we have some English thyme here, and this is Thai basil, which some people have used in cooking. Some people asked me for some leaves, and they took it, but it is a beautiful, it looks like a wedding bouquet to me. And then last but not least is this box, which is going crazy. And this is kind of the bees box here, because we have some astilbe that is finished blooming. This was bee balm, so this is all red flowers here, and it's taken over the whole box. This is going to have to be all redone. But we have some more coreopsis, and then we have some sedum here, the autumn joy sedum. And if the sun were on it, this would be covered with bees. And hiding under here is some rosemary. It's doing a very good job of surviving, even though this sedum is taking over. And the fennel always takes over at this time of year too. But so we have a lot of edible herbs and peppers and Swiss chard for taste. We have the bees that are all over the place for hearing. We have color, obviously, for a feast for the eyes, and watching the bees. And then touch, we have the fern and the lamb's ears, and even some of these herbs. You know, they all have their own feel and beauty. And many of them, of course, have the smell. Let's see, am I covering everything? I want to make sure. Smell and taste and hearing and touch. What's the one? Oh. Seeing, smell, touch, taste, hearing. Yeah, okay, we've covered them all. So we're going to just keep walking on this path. We'll show you how nice this path. It goes over and connects to the community center patio over here. So it's really, this is a very nice walk. I know when I'm watering at night or working on the gardens, there's a lot of people that take this walk around the grounds of the community center, and this path has been one that is well used. All right, I think that's the tour. Why don't you?
Perfect. The one thing, I wanted to add a little bit is when we were doing this, we also talked about how this could help the handicap. And what Donna saw was the need for the stone dust path. The grass wasn't working. Can you hear me, Donna?
Yeah.
Yeah. You might want to talk more about it. You're the nurse.
Well,
but several people have now imitated all this. They've called me and wanted to know how we did it and so forth. Of course, they don't have a Donna who's taking care of it all, which is fantastic. But I just think what Donna and the DPW and the community center did is just marvelous. And it was all thanks to that gift from the Friends of the COA. And it wasn't an enormous gift, but it's given us so much and has changed that whole look of the back of the building. Now, we only have about a few minutes left. Are there any questions?
Let me just say one thing about the handicap accessibility though, because that is one thing that we kept in mind when we were designing this whole thing. And the design of the boxes, it seemed like the best design, but then it also occurred to us that because of the V shape of them, the wheelchairs could pull right up to it and the knees could go in where the V is. And so we're figuring that people can in the future, when we all get back to the building together, people will be able to, even handicapped, be able to be back there and work on the flowers. At some point we'll have a committee to work on the flowers, or the people, there are some groups up at the community center who really want to be involved with this garden, and that would be fabulous. And they'll be able to work around those raised beds. And the path, the stone dust, when you first get it, it's real soft and messy, but after it rains on it, you get a pretty hard surface. And so even the bikes, can run over it. And so I'm pretty sure that the wheelchairs are going to be able to use that path well.
Yeah, which is really make it great. I can just see people now deadheading and so forth.
I can use the help.
Yes, you certainly could use the help. But it's been a marvelous addition to the community center. And I was thrilled when they were so excited about it. And then we found Donna and the DPW to put it all together. It was like a big puzzle in the beginning. How do you do it? But it's easily done. I encourage anybody else to try to do it. It's something that can be shared with everybody. And it's quite nice as you get older, not to bend over all the way down to the ground, which I do in my garden and Donna does in hers. It's nice to have things at chair height, much easier on the back if nothing else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, I thank everybody for coming. If you have any questions, you can always reach us through the Lexington Field and Garden website, and Donna's available to answer questions, or you will see her out there come next April. I'm sure she'll be working away on that whole thing.
I still have a lot of work to do to put it to bed for the winter.
Oh yeah, I guess you do, matter of fact. And I was serious. I would love some of those Asclepias seeds, and somebody else may be interested in them. I could just pot them and put them in. I've gotten the winter garden ready for that. So thank you, my dear.
Okay.
It was lovely. Thank you all for attending tonight. Our next show will be in November, and it's with Guy Doran on attracting the birds, as I remember, to the winter garden.
Oh.
So it should be fun. So everybody be safe and stay healthy, and good night.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you, everyone, for coming.
Very welcome.